The British Empire wasn't built on fair trade or hard work alone. It was built on theft. Not petty theft, not back-alley robbery, but grand state-sponsored piracy on a global scale. In the 16th and 17th centuries, the English crown literally hired pirates, gave them licenses to steal and split the profits. The world remembers them as privateers, but let's not sugarcoat it. They were pirates in the service of the state, looting Spanish ships stuffed with gold and silver, burning colonial cities, and shipping stolen fortunes back to England. And those fortunes didn't just line pockets. They bankrolled the rise of England from a weak island kingdom into the beginnings of the most powerful empire in modern history. To see how deep this goes, picture Europe in the late 1500s. Spain and Portugal are on top of the world. After the voyages of Columbus and the conquest of the Americas, their galleons sail back across the Atlantic, loaded with unimaginable wealth. Mountains of silver from Potosi in present-day Bolivia, gold from Mexico, spices, sugar, and slaves. The Spanish crown controls a river of treasure that fuels wars, builds palaces, and keeps their empire expanding. England, by comparison, is a second-rate power, poor, underdeveloped, and humiliated by Spain's dominance. Queen Elizabeth has no empire, no vast colonies, and not enough money to fight Spain head-on. So she turns to a different weapon. If England can't outproduce Spain, it can steal from Spain. Elizabeth issues letters of marque, legal licenses that turn pirates into privateers. With a letter of marque, a captain has royal permission to attack enemy ships, loot their cargo, and bring the treasure home. The crown takes a cut, the investors get their share, and the crew keeps the rest. It's piracy with a flag of legitimacy, theft turned into policy. The most famous of these state-backed pirates was Francis Drake. To most schoolbooks, he's a heroic explorer, the man who circumnavigated the globe. But what they don't emphasize is that his voyage around the world was basically one long, carefully planned robbery spree. In 1577, Drake set out with a fleet of 5 ships on a mission wrapped in secrecy. Officially, he was exploring new trade routes. In reality, he was hunting Spanish treasure. The high point came off the coast of Peru in 1579, when Drake intercepted the Spanish galleon Nuestra Señora de la Concepción, better known by its nickname, Cacafuego. The ship was groaning with treasure: 26 tons of silver, 13 chests of silver coins, gold, jewels, precious cloth, and even porcelain. The loot was so vast it took 6 days to unload it onto Drake's ships. Historians estimate the haul was worth over $40 million in today's money. Drake sailed home in 1580 with only 1 ship left, but his plunder was so massive it returned a profit of 4,700%. His investors became rich beyond belief. Queen Elizabeth herself, who had secretly financed the voyage, received a share big enough to pay off her national debt. And to top it off, she personally boarded Drake's ship, the Golden Hind, and knighted him on deck. That's how piracy became patriotism. Drake didn't stop there. In 1585, he launched raids across the Caribbean. He struck Santo Domingo, the capital of Spain's Caribbean empire. He torched Cartagena, one of the wealthiest cities in the New World. He even attacked St. Augustine in Florida, burning the settlement to the ground. These weren't just raids on ships. These were assaults on entire colonial cities carried out with the blessing of the English crown. But Drake was just the beginning. Spain called it terrorism. England called it strategy. By the 17th century, another name rose to fame: Henry Morgan. Morgan wasn't just a pirate. He was a businessman of empire. In 1671, he led one of the most audacious raids in history, the sack of Panama. With a force of over 200 men, Morgan marched across the Isthmus of Panama, defeated Spanish defenders, and stormed Panama City. The city burned, its wealth stripped bare. The treasure included silver, gold, jewels, silk, and slaves. Wealth measured not in chests, but in wagon loads. Officially, Morgan had gone too far. Technically, England and Spain were supposed to be at peace. He was arrested and shipped back to London. But instead of punishment, Morgan was celebrated, knighted, and sent back to Jamaica as lieutenant governor. In other words, well done, pirate. You've earned your place in the empire. This is what made English piracy unique. It wasn't random crime. It was organized, financed, and legitimized by the state. Investors, including nobles and even the monarch herself, put up money to fund voyages. Crews were promised shares. Loot was divided like dividends. The crown took its cut off the top. It was capitalism in its rawest form. High risk, high reward, backed by violence. And the impact was enormous. Spain, once seemingly invincible, was humiliated time and again. Its treasure fleets became targets. Its colonies lived in fear of English raiders. The sheer scale of plunder weakened Spain's hold on its empire. Meanwhile, the influx of treasure into England boosted its economy, strengthened its navy, and gave it the resources to expand overseas. Piracy helped transform England from a minor player into a rising imperial power. The financial system of theft became the seed capital of empire. The plunder these privateers hauled home wasn't just treasure, it was capital. The gold and silver seized from Spanish ships flowed straight into the English economy. Investors who backed privateering voyages reinvested their profits. Nobles who once struggled to fund wars now had deep pockets. Even the crown itself used pirate loot to finance its debts and build naval power. It was as if piracy became an early form of venture capital, fueling the rise of the English state. The structure was deliberate. A voyage required ships, weapons, provisions, and men. Investors, wealthy merchants, aristocrats, and sometimes even the Queen herself would put up the money. Captains like Francis Drake or Henry Morgan would assemble crews lured by the promise of a cut. When the voyage returned, the loot was divided. A fixed percentage to the crown, a share to the investors, and the rest split among the captain and crew. It was profit sharing by way of plunder. To the average sailor, this was dangerous but potentially life-changing work. To the elites, it was high-risk, high-reward investment, except the risks mostly fell on the crews. This financial model laid the groundwork for something far larger. As piracy became less politically convenient, it evolved into more respectable forms of empire building. The same logic that once backed privateers later backed the East India Company, a corporation chartered by the crown with the power to wage war, conquer territory, and monopolize trade. Instead of raiding ships, it extracted wealth through taxation, monopoly, and control of colonies. The violence was dressed up in the language of law and trade, but the essence was the same: extraction backed by force. And here's where the conspiratorial truth comes into focus. Empires aren't built solely on trade or hard work. They're built on systems of extraction legitimized by the state and funded by people who rarely bear the risk themselves. In the 16th century, it was privateers looting Spanish galleons. In the 17th, it was joint stock companies carving up foreign lands. In the 21st, it's multinational corporations, hedge funds, and financial institutions finding new ways to extract wealth from weaker economies, always with the tacit blessing of governments. Think about modern parallels. When governments want deniability, they outsource dirty work. In the 16th century, Elizabeth hired pirates. Today, governments use private military contractors to fight wars off the books. When elites want wealth without accountability, they build shadow systems. In the 17th century, it was letters of marque. Today, it's shell companies, offshore tax havens, and corporate structures designed to hide ownership and risk. When states face rivals, they use economic sabotage. In the 16th century, it was piracy against Spain. Today, it's sanctions, trade wars, and financial blockades. And the personal connection is this: if the most celebrated empire in history was built on theft disguised as policy, why would today's system be any different? Do you really believe that financial institutions, corporations, or governments will hesitate to bend rules, outsource risk, or confiscate wealth when it suits their survival? Remember, Queen Elizabeth knighted a pirate for stealing enough treasure to pay her debts. That's not morality, that's power using whatever tools it can find. The lesson is uncomfortable but necessary. Real wealth is not what states or corporations promise you. It's not numbers on a bank balance that can be frozen, devalued, or seized. Real wealth is independence, assets, skills, and knowledge that survive outside the shifting rules of the system. Because rules are rewritten whenever it benefits the powerful. In the 16th century, piracy became policy. In the 20th, gold ownership was criminalized in America. In the 21st, inflation quietly confiscates your savings. The British Empire did not rise because it played fair. It rose because it weaponized money and power, turning pirates into national heroes and stolen wealth into the foundation of global dominance. And history whispers the same warning across the centuries. When governments need money, they will find pirates. Sometimes they sail ships, sometimes they run banks, but the result is always the same. The system survives and you pay the price.